Today is Father's Day, a nice day to celebrate and remember our fathers. That is, if you had a kind and loving father. For some, however, it's a day to be ignored, skipped over, because their father was absent or abusive. It's a confusing day. For some people, it's an intimate celebratory day, but for others, it's a reminder of absence or even horror. It's also a confusing liturgical day. We celebrate Father's Day on the Sunday closest to St. Joseph's Day, the celebration of Jesus' father, Joseph. We know Joseph from this Christmas story and our little figure in our manger scene. However, after Jesus' birth, Joseph practically disappears. He pops up when Jesus is about 12 years old and the family is at the temple in Jerusalem. And that's about it. Unlike Jesus' mother, Mary, who followed Jesus throughout his ministry, who was at his death and witnessed his resurrection, Joseph is nowhere to be seen. What did he think of his son? Was he disappointed that Jesus didn't follow in his footsteps as a carpenter? Was he proud of the rabbi who traveled the countryside and preached and taught and healed people? We just don't know. So rather than step into that confusion about fathers, I thought I'd dip into this week's lectionary topic: Jesus calming the storm. But first, since we're going to be spending some time with the Gospel of Mark for a couple of weeks, I thought we'd spend some time today looking at the context within which the author wrote the Gospel. It was written in the early 60s, some 30 years after the death and resurrection of Jesus. The author wrote the book to pass on stories of Jesus to those who already believed. So he assumes people's faith. It's not written to convert people who didn't know about Jesus, who were skeptical of Christianity. When Mark wrote his gospel, the Jesus movement was still considered a sect of Judaism. They weren't called Christians yet even. They were called Nazarenes after Jesus' hometown, or the followers of the way. Things were tense when Mark compiled his gospel from the stories of Jesus that were told among the people of the Jesus movement. By the time Mark wrote his gospel, this Jesus movement was beginning to break away from its mother religion, Judaism. And this resulted in attacks by the leaders of Judaism. But also, Mark was writing from an emigre group of Christians who had left the Holy Land and lived in either Rome or the Greek city of Antioch. We don't really know which. So they were criticized by the Jewish Christians in Jerusalem. And then there were the Romans. Tension was rising between the Jews, the Jewish Christians, and Rome that would quickly explode in a violent revolution in which the temple would be destroyed by Roman troops, and many Jews were killed and scattered around the Mediterranean. Finally, there was tension within the people Mark was writing to. Since Jesus' resurrection and the day of Pentecost, Christians had been expecting the return of Jesus and the beginning of the kingdom of God. But here it was 30 years later and no Jesus. Where was he? Was he about to return? They were confused and they were starting to worry. Where was Jesus? Into this environment, the author pulled together the stories of Jesus' ministry in Galilee, his arrest, his crucifixion, ending in an empty tomb, and he wanted to talk a lot about the coming kingdom of God. So let's keep this in mind over the next couple of weeks as we read the Gospel of Mark.